This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. It is early morning in Soviet Armenia. There has been another night of bitter, killing cold. Hope fades for some earthquake victims buried alive. The misery of those who survived last week's tremendous quake has been compounded. Official estimates of the death toll bounce up and down. The latest is possibly 60,000 dead. Thousands more still buried under crushing, suffocated mounds of rubble, and they appear to be doomed. Our coverage begins with Barry Peterson in Moscow.
This is the sound of sorrow in the city of Spatak, a city of 20,000 now all but obliterated. She cries for her son. All over this city and in cities nearby, this was a day for the living to bury their dead. Ashad Grigoryan said the earthquake was so strong he could barely stand. 2 of his 3 daughters survived. He ran to find his middle daughter, only to discover she had been killed at her school. Other survivors searched for bedding, blankets, anything that was left. And in the harsh cold of the Russian winter, hope is fading for those still trapped under tons of twisted steel and shattered concrete. Rescuers heard fewer cries for help today. The trapped have been 6 days without food and water as temperatures dip well below freezing. For the rescuers, many still digging by hand because of a lack of equipment, there is a sense of bitter desperation, knowing that friends and loved ones somehow survived the earthquake, but may not survive long enough to be saved. A top Politburo official toured some of the tiny villages. So many are dead, said one woman, only the old, the invalids, only the children are left. As the digging goes on, the anger of the survivors is focusing on why the newest buildings were the ones that collapsed, simply fell in on themselves. This is what many such buildings look like. They ring the outskirts of modern Soviet cities. Many are built of prefabricated concrete slabs, simply stacked one atop another with no internal steel structure. The men who build them say they are supposedly designed to withstand an earthquake, but not one so strong as this one. Bad technology and bad design may be part of the problem, but not all. Perhaps, said one construction worker, the real blame lies with bad quality. Today, a construction ministry official said there would be vengeance against those who let quality slip and doomed so many to death in fallen buildings.
Those responsible be punished for their poor construction.
The earthquake coverage on Soviet television shows help flowing in from around the Soviet Union. These chickens, says the announcer, came from Latvia. In this country, troubled by ethnic unrest and calls by some for independence from the Kremlin, officials are using the earthquake to hammer home the point that this is one country, one family, pulling together in time of crisis. And from the heart of the area today, an ominous call for help. Send more medical supplies, especially antibiotics. There is a new fear now in this place of misery, the fear of epidemic. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
Along the 3rd floor of Moscow's Republican Pediatric Hospital, 12-year-old Madeline sleeps quietly, far from the commotion of the earthquake which broke her shoulder and crushed her legs. Her father, brother, and dog are all dead, but more than 1,000 miles from Armenia, a nurse now watches over her, and the healing process slowly begins. Schools were in session last Wednesday when the tremors began in Leninakhan. 15 of the worst cases pulled from the rubble were airlifted to this Moscow hospital. I was in geography class, Akazi remembers. I think I'm the only one in my school who survived. Akazi is recovering, but for hours each day, his parents stand at his bedside. 9-year-old Ara rests with a name tag attached to his wrist. Many of the children are in shock and don't remember who they are. His family, what do you know about his family?
We don't know anything because he was alone. And now we don't know yet. We think, we hope that everything is good, but we don't know yet.
The Republican is one of Moscow's best hospitals, but even here, modern medical equipment is in short supply. "We have enough to do the job," one doctor said, "but if you give us something, we'll take it." They've been working for 4 days straight, sleeping in the hospital at night, performing the blood transfusions and kidney dialysis that are just barely keeping some of these children alive. In the lobby, orderlies wait for hours by their stretchers in case the earthquake sends more of its victims.
It's necessary. We want to help.
There is little drama in the healing process. It is slow and often silent. But you can see it beginning in this Moscow hospital with a doctor's medicine and a mother's comfort. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Moscow.
Officials said today that at least 20 nations already have contributed to the relief effort for the earthquake victims. They've raised millions and millions of dollars, but the cost goes beyond money. It is measured in human lives. A Yugoslav military plane flying aid to Armenia crashed today, killing all 7 people aboard, just 1 day after the crash of a Soviet relief plane claimed 78 lives. But as correspondent Richard Roth reports, nothing slowed the historic outpouring of worldwide aid and concern.
A 40-hour Armenian round trip brought one group of relief workers back to New York this morning, shaken by the chaos they saw building at Yerevan Airport even before the Yugoslav transport plane had crashed.
They were trying to divert planes to other countries. They were trying to get planes to circle, and many of them were out of fuel, so there was no choice but to land. It was basically landing by the seat of your pants, I think.
The AmeriCares workers took these pictures as their 30 tons of donated medical supplies were unloaded just yesterday, part of the unprecedented rescue bridge reaching Soviet Armenia, a relief effort spanning thousands of miles and, for much of the world, 40 years of mistrust.
Leon said he was going to look into you 2 meters.
By air and by airwave, from a ham radio operator outside Boston seeking information for anxious relatives, to a truck driver in Chicago donating $20 in cash. Not since the Soviets, Europeans, and Americans all were allies in World War II has there been anything like this.
The grand total from all sources, as we know it now, would be on the order of $26,181,000.
Money for earthquake relief and much more. Israelis giving blood, the British giving clothes and blankets, Americans sending bottled water from Florida, and policemen from New York.
It is a new spirit, perhaps, in our relationship with the United States. The spirit based on human values, on human feelings.
You want to send a check or put it on Visa or MasterCard?
A new spirit based on simply wanting to help. Significant for East-West politics, experts were saying, but just a new spirit, not a revolution.
This is another very positive step along the road to mutual understanding. I don't think we'll ever really be pals, but we can understand each other better and lower world tensions.
Some better understanding was the goal weeks ago when this meeting in Los Angeles was planned. It was an exchange of expertise today between Soviet and American specialists on how to build to withstand an earthquake. It's a shame, said a woman on the Soviet side, that we started our exchange so late. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York.
And still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, correspondent Bill McLaughlin on a triple train wreck that trapped commuters in shredded steel. And Jerry Bowen on how a 6-year-old frequent flyer helped change the law in California.
Before you tackle a mountain the size of Everest, you've already made your most critical decisions. What to bring with you.
When 1,000 doctors were asked if they were stranded in a place like this, which one of these medicines would they want along? Doctors chose Bayer, more than all these combined.
I chose Bayer. Shouldn't you?
Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders. Also in coated caplets.
Why do you care what I eat for breakfast?
Maybe we shouldn't discuss this while you're under the influence of sugar and preservatives.
And what should I be influenced by? Nuts and twigs?
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal with no sugar added and no preservatives.
This is much better than I thought.
Yeah, kind of like me.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
Now, try the deliciously different taste of new Nutri-Grain biscuits. The only shredded wheat with no preservatives.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shreds, shoot some salad. Salad, salad shooter.
Presto Salad Shooter, slicer, shredder. Point and shoot right where you want it. To clean, just rinse and wipe. Store anywhere.
Shoot some salad. Salad, salad shooter.
From Presto.
In test after test, Scotch brand magic tape is as easy to dispense as it is to use. Scotch brand magic tape. Stick with the one you know.
Today's London rush hour crash was Britain's worst train disaster in 13 years. Rail officials tonight blamed problems with an aging, overhauled signals system. At least 36 people were killed and more than 100 hospitalized in an accident that has stunned the British nation. Bill McLaughlin is our man on the scene.
The tragedy struck the world's busiest rail junction at its busiest time, the Monday morning rush hour. The three-train collision trapped 500 commuters in a massive tangle of twisted metal. Rescuers, some airlifted in helicopters to escape the traffic snarl, crawled through the crushed rail carriages, searching for victims. Doctors carried out emergency surgery, mainly amputations, at the disaster site. Some survivors seemed amazed at their good fortune.
I just think I'm very, very, very lucky. I normally go in the front carriage of that train, Bournemouth, every morning. And something this morning just made me get in further back.
Tonight, search teams expect to find more bodies, and some of the critically injured now in hospital are not expected to survive. Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher appeared stunned by the tragedy and close to tears.
We don't know what it is that's gone wrong, and we can't postulate. We just have to wait for someone to find the facts. But it's gone wrong in a very, very deeply tragic way.
This is the third serious train crash in Britain in the last month. Mrs. Thatcher's political opponents claim too much has gone wrong too often with the country's trains. They're now demanding a full investigation into the running of Britain's railways. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, London.
Investigators in Mexico City today sifted through the debris of that city's deadliest accident in more than 4 years. At least 62 people, 12 of them Mexican children, were killed in a chain reaction of explosions and fires Sunday in a crowded marketplace. It started at a stall selling illegal fireworks. The market was jammed with people buying the illegal fireworks to celebrate today's major religious feast day in Mexico.
Generations, it's nourished grandparents, grandchildren, and now their children's children. The breakfast Europeans have enjoyed for centuries, known in America as Kellogg's Mueslix, a natural balance of oats, wheat, rice, corn, barley, raisins, dates, and hazelnuts. Kellogg's Mueslix, 5-grain, all bran, what breakfast was meant to be.
The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. The first screen shaves incredibly close, the second even closer. The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade, or your money back. And the Lady Remington rechargeable, the perfect gift.
Lucky for this diver, he has a thin, powerful seal. So thin it's virtually airtight. So powerful it even holds up to pressure. No, it's not on this diver's mask. The seal is on his dentures. Extra Hold Fast Teeth has a seal so thin yet so powerful, it's virtually airtight. For a hold that's closer to real than any ordinary adhesive, Extra Hold Fast Teeth, the extra hold seal that's closer to real.
If you took Alka-Seltzer Plus for your sneezing and congestion, there's something you should know. Contact 12-hour caplets work twice as long.
Gesundheit.
Until there's a cure, there's contact.
Iranian-supported Lebanese kidnappers who claimed to hold American William Higgins hostage said today they have sentenced him to death. According to CBS News Pentagon correspondent David Martin, U.S. officials doubt the authenticity of this latest threat to Higgins. They noted it was accompanied only by a photocopy of a picture said to be Higgins. The U.S. Marine officer was kidnapped 10 months ago while serving with UN peacekeeping forces. With Palestine Liberation Organization leader Yasser Arafat scheduled to address a relocated UN General Assembly session in Geneva tomorrow, Israel tonight tried to make it difficult for Palestinians to hear him. They believe it's a matter of national defense. Israel confined all residents of the Gaza Strip to their homes and reportedly planned to cut off electricity. The Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation is a year old now, but as Bob Simon reports from Gaza, there are signs it has barely begun.
What became known as the Children's Revolt 1 year ago has been chronicled by a child. 15-year-old Salwa has been painting scenes of daily life in Rafah, the Gaza refugee camp where she lives. Her work was chosen by the Artists Association here to illustrate their Christmas card collection this year. Season's greetings from the Gaza Strip. What started 1 year ago as an outburst of anger has developed into a way of life, a routine of insurrection and repression. Every family's been drawn into it. Everyone speaks of a son, a cousin, who's been killed or wounded, deported or detained. Rokia Samhadana was released from an Israeli jail 3 weeks ago to discover that her son had been shot and killed the previous day. She's being consoled by other mothers of martyrs, which is what they call themselves. They are the new aristocracy of the Gaza Strip. The uprising has uprooted the old order, replacing landed families and Israeli-appointed officials with this sorority of the sorrows. The Intifada has been institutionalized. You can see it in preschool politics. The name of this game is curfew, the idea, break out. The radicalization of kindergarten. All universities in the occupied territories have been closed. The Islamic University in Gaza declared a military zone. Even the president can't come in. And much of his faculty is on involuntary sabbatical.
He spent 6 months administrative detention. He spent 6 months administrative detention. They are in jail now.
If the Israelis closed some schools, they opened others, detention camps, which became training grounds for nationalism and insurrection. Every collective punishment, every mass arrest had a side effect of solidarity. Every Palestinian activity has taken on political meaning. Doctors visiting remote villages to provide free clinics believe they are contributing to a national cause.
We ourselves, as Palestinians, we must do this type of work.
The meanest streets of the Middle East look much the same as they did 1 year ago. The real transformation, people will tell you, is what has happened to their minds.
In our minds now, the territories is not the territories. It's not an occupied territory. It's an occupied state. That's what it is for us.
But the army maintains that the endless curfews and controls are wearing people down, which is what they're designed to do, without burning bridges to the future.
We do not want to leave scorched earth here. Eventually, we will have to live together with the Palestinians.
Maybe, one day, after we've thrown out the occupiers, says Rokia Samhadana, remember, the Israelis are not as strong as the Americans, she says, and the Palestinians are a lot stronger than the Vietnamese. Bob Simon, CBS News, Gaza.
Believe it or not, these 3 prunes have more fiber than this entire bowl of bran flakes. Prunes, the high-fiber fruit.
Why do you take aspirin more than once a week?
Because after 1 day of tennis, I can have 3 days of aches and pains. But when you take aspirin that often, you wonder about aspirin stomach upset.
Well, today, there's a better aspirin product for you. Try Buffered Bufferin. Better than plain aspirin because it's 100% aspirin, plus 3 buffers to help protect against stomach upset aspirin can cause.
You know, it really is better.
Try Buffered Bufferin if you take aspirin more than once a week. That'll be a charge. We interrupt this purchase for a reminder.
Don't forget, Santa.
'Tis the season to be choosy.
La, 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 la.
That's it. So choose the card that actually pays you cash back for every charge. The Discover card.
That's a great idea.
You sure know how to pick them. It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back.
This holiday, save an arm and a leg with Pam. Pam No-Stick Cooking Spray makes baking a whole lot easier. Pam, because how you cook is as important as what you cook.
More tonight about the feuding and indecision inside and outside the Bush transition team. The battle between those who want the president-elect to go ahead and name former Senator from Texas John Tower as his choice for defense secretary and those who don't. CBS News National Affairs correspondent Leslie Stahl reports Tower is now being forced to sweat out an FBI investigation into charges opponents have spread about him, accusations both professional and personal.
CBS News has been told that the Bush transition team has recently promised John Tower that if an FBI background investigation clears him, Mr. Bush will name him defense secretary alone, not as part of a team, and that he will have input into the choice of his top deputies, a move to help Tower save face. The FBI investigation, though, is taking longer than expected and is of extraordinary depth, focusing on reports of Tower's alleged womanizing and drinking, as well as his role as a consultant for several powerful defense contractors.
We would want to fully satisfy ourselves that there is nothing in his background that would pose a problem in confirmation or would make the appointment imprudent.
Even before the election, Tower was considered a shoo-in for defense secretary. His friends say that for the past 5 weeks, he's been sitting by the phone waiting, twisting in the wind.
The damage is already done. I mean, the earlier now, the better, and doing it alone is better than doing it with people, but still an awful lot of damage has been done.
Tower's supporters dispute that.
Information is being gathered, and if John Tower is named as the Secretary of Defense designate, I do not believe that this in any way will damage him.
Other Tower supporters believe that this embarrassing public waiting game has been orchestrated by those within the Bush circle who hope to force Tower to withdraw his name or weaken his power should he eventually get the job he so clearly wants. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, Washington.
Vice President-elect Dan Quayle is flexing his muscles in another direction. Indiana's outgoing Republican Governor Robert Orr today accommodated Quayle and named Republican Congressman Dan Coates to fill the U.S. Senate seat of Vice President-elect Quayle. Coates is a former aide and associate of Quayle and is currently serving in the House seat Quayle gave up when he was elected to the Senate in 1980. Important decision today in Oliver North's pre-trial maneuvering in the Arms for Iran, What Happened to the Money criminal case. Presiding federal judge Gerhardt Gazelle limited North's request to use thousands of classified government documents during his criminal conspiracy and cover-up trial. This now reduces, it doesn't eliminate, it does reduce the possibility that North may get off without a trial at all because of President Reagan's objections to providing so many secret documents by the thousands.
I woke up with this killer pressure from a sinus cold.
Sinus cold.
Pain.
Pressure. Congestion.
Couldn't breathe.
Pain.
Congestion.
Pressure.
The pain was awful.
Congestion. Pressure.
I took new maximum strength Dristan. I'm here.
Discover new maximum strength Dristan. It combines 2 strong medicines to drain sinus cavities, unclog congestion, to relieve pressure and pain.
And it won't make you drowsy.
New maximum strength Dristan. Strong medicine for tough sinus colds.
Whether your taste is for rich, satisfying decaf, or if extra smooth Mountain Blend decaffeinated is the way to start your day, when you've found a naturally decaffeinated blend that tastes your way. Rich decaf or Mountain Blend decaffeinated, only Nescafe gives you this choice.
Great coffee blends that taste your way. That's necessarily Nescafe.
With every MCI bill, you not only see how much you saved, you get detailed information on every call from every phone. You can even get accounting codes. Anything less, it's just an AT&T bill.
Until you call, you'll never know how much better a long-distance company can be.
Gas pain, bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
Dutch television tonight reports that 3 paintings by Vincent van Gogh have been stolen from a museum in the Netherlands. One is said to be The Potato Eaters, among the most renowned works of the 19th century Dutch impressionist. Now about family. What's best for the children? In 1979, California officials declared it was state policy to, quote, encourage parents to share the rights and responsibilities of child rearing after divorce. Since then, some 33 states have passed joint custody laws. But now California, the state where it all began, is reversing course. Jerry Bowen explains why.
It was the extreme case of 6-year-old Joshua Fingert, among others, that came to symbolize the troubling problem with California's decade-old joint custody law.
I don't care where I am, and I don't like going on airplanes.
Anybody need extra time on boarding?
Have a real good time, okay?
Joshua flew every month between his mother in the San Francisco area and his father in Southern California, and he flew alone. The arrangement was court-approved. 1 week with Dad, 3 weeks with Mom. 2 homes, 2 schools, even 2 different wardrobes, and 1 confused little boy.
He'd feel kind of withdrawn when he came back for at least the first 3 days. I mean, you could see the devastating effects it was having on him.
So California lawmakers decided to put on the brakes, decided to curb a law that's already spread to more than 30 other states and given divorced fathers equal footing in custody battles. The revised law scraps the assumption that joint custody is the preferred solution in cases where the parents are battling over the child.
2 people who live apart, who are not in happy agreement with each other's lifestyle or each other's life, are very poorly qualified to make joint decisions about that child.
We have joint physical custody, which means the baby is split evenly in time.
You put sand from the park in your mouth?
Yeah.
2-year-old Jonathan Smith is another tiny subject of court-ordered joint custody, an arrangement his mother fears may be harmful. Experts say children in bitter custody battles suffer emotional distress.
Somebody has to stop and listen and say, now wait a minute, what's best for the baby? What happens to the baby when you take him back and forth and back and forth and back and forth? What happens to him? And they're not saying that. They're saying, what does the father want? What does the mother want? Well, they both want the same thing, so we'll just split it in half, and that's the way it's going to be. And you can't do that.
The inconvenience of 2 homes is far outweighed by the benefit of the child keeping a strong emotional bond with both the natural parents.
Bob Burton runs United Fathers of America, aimed at helping divorced men retain their parental rights.
The more people you're around that love you, it never hurts.
What do you say, Jason?
That's your real treasure, your children. And losing that, you know, cut off an arm and a leg, but don't take my child.
Burton fought for and won joint custody of his own 5-year-old son and has no doubts the arrangement is healthy. But some young veterans of the timeshare wars strongly disagree.
If you could change the law, how would you make the law?
Well, I'd make it so then the kids could have a say in it. We don't have any rights at all. They do whatever they want.
It's uncertain how the revised law will change Joshua Fingert's life, but he doesn't have to fly back and forth anymore. A judge has ordered the boy to live in Southern California near his father. Joshua's mother was forced to move, too, to continue the custody arrangement. Bob Burton just moved to a new apartment closer to his son's school and worries that his wife may challenge their long-standing custody agreement. And Sally Davis returns to court next month for yet another hearing.
I got him. I got him.
One more dreaded courtroom battle over what's best for Jonathan. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, see you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Harry Smith.
And I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, Yasser Arafat's address to the General Assembly in Geneva.
Also, Jerry Lewis joins us on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
He loves me.